I just found the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns because these speedrunners are absolutely terrible at hiding the fact that they're literally cheating. This speedrunner starts by loading into the world, where immediately we can see a ruin portal and also a village, which is an extremely good seed for a speedrun. But we can actually already see something that is fake. Well, if we zoom in on the ruin portal, we can see what appears to be a netherrack gold ingot block, which is a block that does not spawn with a ruin portal, as it can only be found in the nether, which means that the speedrunner probably placed the ruin portal here themselves, which would be against the rules of speedrunning. Well, the speedrunner immediately heads over towards the ruin portal, where they open up the chest and find some normal loot, like flint and golden materials, all stuff that is actually normal for a ruin portal to spawn. Well, the speedrunner takes some of the loot and immediately makes her way towards a tree for some wood. But hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and pause it right here, we can see what appears to be a diamond sheep. Okay, this is very weird because a diamond sheep is not inside of normal Minecraft, which means the speedrunner might be using a texture pack or maybe even a mod. Well, the speedrunner begins mining the tree, where they turn their logs into planks and make themselves a crafting table. They then place down their crafting table and make a wooden axe. They then break their crafting table and head into the village. And in the village, they find a blacksmith. The speedrunner breaks the window and loots the chest, where they once again find loot that is completely normal, like iron, bread, and obsidian. And not only that, whenever the speedrunner picks up the iron, we can see them gain the advancement acquire hardware inside of chat, which means that this is their first time touching iron. So this honestly makes me believe that this loot could actually be real. Well, the speedrunner loots everything out of the chest and leaves the blacksmith. But wait just a second. Did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and pause it right here, we can see that there is 3 obsidian inside of the chest. But if we go back to where we paused it earlier, we can see that they had 4 obsidian. But how is this possible? Well, once the speedrunner finished looting the chest, we can see a cut in the speedrun and also a piece of obsidian on the floor, which they pick up, which likely means that the speedrunner went inside a creative and threw a piece of obsidian on the floor, but just cut it out of the speedrun, which, in case you were wondering, would actually be against the rules of speedrunning. Well, the speedrunner begins mining some hay bales for food, but if I pause it right here, there's actually something that is completely fake, and you might be wondering what it is. Well, if I zoom in right here, we can see what appears to be a mushroom mob of some sort. Yeah, I'm not too sure, but what I am sure about is that this mob is not inside of normal Minecraft, or at least I don't think so. Well, the speedrunner completely ignores that mob and begins breaking the rest of the hay bales. They then find the iron golem, which they hit and then build 3 blocks up. They eventually kill the iron golem, which drops them an extra 5 pieces of iron, which is completely normal. They then place down their crafting table and craft themselves a bunch of bread, an iron bucket, an iron sword, and a shield. So now that the speedrunner has some pretty good loot for their speedrun, they begin making their way back towards the ruin portal. They place in the rest of the obsidian and light the portal and head into the nether. But hold on just a second. You see, I currently have 0 subscribers, and it's always been my dream to one day reach 1 subscriber. So if you would like to be my first subscriber, then that would genuinely make my entire day. But once the speedrunner loads into the nether, we can see them gain the advancement we need to go deeper inside of chat, which means that this is their first time inside of the nether. So everything should be completely normal, right? Well, the speedrunner looks at their spawn and everything seems pretty normal until they find this weird path, which is not normal. Well, they follow the path until it suddenly stops at this random wall. So the speedrunner digs into the wall, where they find tons of endermen, and they're not moving. Well, I'm not sure how the speedrunner could get a bunch of endermen inside of one place and have them not teleport. Something is very weird. Well, the speedrunner starts killing the endermen, but hold on, do you see that? The enderman dropped an eye of ender, but a normal enderman always drops ender pearls, which means that the speedrunner probably messed with the enderman's files, which would completely disqualify this speedrun as being legit. Well, believe it or not, but the speedrunner sits here for the next 2 minutes killing all of the endermen, which somehow only gives them 4 eyes of ender, which is genuinely kind of embarrassing. Well, they begin making their way back towards the portal, but hold on just a second. If we look down inside their hotbar, we can see that they now have 12 Eyes of Ender. But if we rewind the footage, we can see that they just had 4. So where did they suddenly gain an extra 8 Eyes of Ender? Well, if we play the video from here very slowly, we can see a sudden cut in the run where they magically gain 8 Eyes of Ender. So the speedrunner likely went inside of creative and gave themselves these Eyes of Enders, but just cut it out of the speedrun. And if I'm being completely honest, they almost got away with it. Well, now that they have everything they need for the end, they head back towards their portal, and once they're in the overworld, they throw their Eye of Ender and begin heading in that direction. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the speedrunner starts mining into the ground where they find a diamond. But this is very confusing because diamonds can only be found at Y level -69, and they are nowhere close to that Y level. And not only this, whenever the speedrunner mines all of the diamonds, we find out that it was actually a 10 vein of diamonds, which only has a 0.0420% chance of spawning. So either the speedrunner got extremely lucky or they were cheating. Well, the speedrunner places down their crafting table and makes himself a diamond chest plate. The speedrunner then swims across this lake and begins looking harder for the stronghold. But wait just a second, did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and pause it right here, we can see what appears to be stone brick. But this block can only spawn inside of a stronghold, and there's no way a stronghold is above ground like this, right? Well, the speedrunner goes up to the stronghold and breaks her way in where, what the heck, it actually is the stronghold. But wait a second, there's no way this is the real stronghold, because the real stronghold never has a lantern, and also the spawner has no mob inside of it, when a normal one always has a silverfish, which makes me believe that the speedrunner probably built this stronghold themselves. This speedrunner is terrible at cheating. Well, the speedrunner places in all of their Eyes of Ender, and once they're in the end, we can once again see that they gain the advancement the end, which much like the Nether, this is their first time in the end. Well, they build their way over towards the main island and throw an ender pearl. They then head over towards the middle and place down a lava bucket. Maybe the speedrunner is trying to burn the ender dragon, but whenever you place down a block right here in the middle, it actually prevents the ender dragon from perching. So the speedrunner sits here and waits for the next 3 minutes for the ender dragon to perch, but it never does, which is likely because of the lava that they placed. I think this makes the speedrunner very angry because they end up jumping off the edge and dying. Okay, that speedrun was absolutely terrible. Now, this speedrunner starts by loading into the world, where immediately we can see a village, which for a speedrun, that is a pretty good spawn. Well, the speedrunner immediately heads over to the village and begins breaking down this villager's house for some wood. They turn the wood into a crafting table to make themselves a wooden axe. They then break their crafting table and find the iron golem. But whenever they attack the iron golem, something insane happens. Well, just watch it for yourself.
Oh, there he is, there he is. Come here, iron golem. Hiya! Okay. Hold on, I gotta build up. Okay, come here, iron golem. Oh my god, what the heck? What the heck? Oh! I'm on half a heart.
Did that iron golem just build blocks? Never in my 83 years of living have I ever seen an iron golem place down blocks. So something tells me that this is not a real iron golem, and instead it might be the speedrunner's friend using a mod to turn themselves into an iron golem. And this even further proves my point based on what they do next.
I'm on half a heart. Iron golem, please. Iron golem. Oh no. Oh, come here, iron golem. Oh, you fell in a hole, you stupid little iron golem. Take that, iron golem. Hiya! Oh, that stupid iron golem. Thank you for the 29 iron. Holy moly macaroni.
The speedrunner killed the iron golem, which dropped them 29 iron ingots. But a normal iron golem can only drop a maximum of 5 iron ingots, which means that this iron golem is 100% fake. Well, the speedrunner finds a blacksmith, and of course they head inside and loot the chest, which has some normal loot. But I want you to listen to what the speedrunner says.
Hopefully this blacksmith has like super good loot. Okay. Oh, we got some apples, some gold, and some apples, and some gold, and some iron. Oh, that was a fantastic chest. Oh, what the heck is in my hand? Are we serious right now? Actually, I am kinda hungry. I'll be eating that. Oh, Mr. Villager, I don't feel so good, Villager. Oh, that did not feel good.
How did the speedrunner magically gain a piece of poop? Well, if we rewind the footage and then play it again from right here, we can see that there is a player in the window. And this player breaks the window and drops the speedrunner a piece of poo. And something tells me that this player is the iron golem that we saw earlier. And that would immediately disqualify the speedrun as being legit. Because whenever you speedrun, you always have to make sure that you are in a single player world. Well, now that the speedrunner for some reason ate the poop, they exit the blacksmith and place down their crafting table to make themselves an iron sword, an iron chest plate, iron pants, iron boots, and an iron helmet. So now they have full iron armor, which for the start of a speedrun is actually extremely good. But once again, I just want you to listen to what the speedrunner says.
Oh my goodness. I just ran out of food. I need more food. Oh, hay bales, hay bales! Hay bales are like the best food in the entire world. Hay bales are so cool. Hay bales are like one of my favorite hay bales. I love hay bales. Okay. Now I need to go back to my crafting table to make some bread.
Did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and then pause it right here, we can see what appears to be a, what the heck is this? Yeah, I have never seen a mob like this in my entire life, which once again makes me believe that it's the speedrunner's friend that we keep on seeing throughout the speedrun. The speedrunner heads back to the crafting table and makes himself 15 bread. They of course break their crafting table and begin exploring more of the village until they find something absolutely insane. Well, just watch it for yourself.
Okay, what do we have? Anything at all? What the heck? Is that a sniffer? What the heck, sniffer? Oh, bye-bye, sniffer. Thank you for the nether portal. That's such a nice sniffer. He's so nice. Bye, sniffer. Bye.
Yeah, we just saw a sniffer building a nether portal. And not only that, the nether portal is extremely small, because this is what a normal nether portal looks like. And it is physically impossible to get another portal that looks like this unless you have mods, which once again is against the rules of speedrunning. Well, the speedrunner begins heading into the nether, but wait just a second. You see, I currently have 0 subscribers, and it's always been my dream to one day reach 1 subscriber. So if you would like to be my first subscriber, then that would genuinely make my entire day. But once a speedrunner is inside the nether, they spawn inside of a fortress, which is extremely lucky. But if you look down inside the chat, the speedrunner did gain the advancement a terrible fortress, which means that this is the speedrunner's first time entering the fortress, which makes me believe that this part could actually be real, but I'll let you watch it for yourself.
Oh my goodness, I spawned inside of the nether fortress. That's so lucky. Well, come here, you little iron blaze. Oh my goodness, so many blazes, so many blazes. I've never seen so many blazes in my entire life.
For some reason, none of the blazes are moving. And if I'm being completely honest, I have no idea how they did this. So if you know how they did this, then please let me know, because I am so confused. But once the speedrunner kills 27 blazes, they eventually get 6 blaze rods. So now all they need are ender pearls. But the way that the speedrunner gets ender pearls is absolutely insane. Well, I'll just let you watch it for yourself.
So now all I need are ender pearls. Where the heck can I get an ender pearl? Oh, is that an enderman? Come here, enderman, come here! Get back here, enderman, get back here! Ha 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 ha! It's a dead end, enderman. Give me your balls. Thank you. Oh my god, there's so many balls, there's so many balls! I'll spare you this time, enderman.
The speedrunner chased the enderman all the way until they got to a dead end, and the enderman, begging for its life, just ended up dropping a bunch of ender pearls. But in case you couldn't tell, this enderman is not a real enderman, because this is the same exact player that we have been seeing throughout the entire speedrun. Well, now that the speedrunner has 16 ender pearls and 6 blaze rods, they go back to the portal, and once they're in the overworld, they turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and make themselves 12 eyes of ender. But now for this next part, I just want you to watch this for yourself.
Oh, stronghold. Oh, it's over there, it's over there, it's over there. I think I'm gonna go in this direction. I don't really want to go over there. Actually, I was getting kind of thirsty. I think I'm gonna drink some of this water. It's so thirsty. Oh,
What the heck? How did this fountain of water bring the speedrunner to the end? Okay, if I'm being honest, this has gotta be the fakest speedrun I have ever seen. Well, once the speedrunner is inside of the end, we can see the same player that we saw at the blacksmith earlier inside of the speedrun. But I'm just gonna let you watch this next part for yourself.
is that the Poop Man? Oh, he's building me a bridge. Oh, thank you, Poop Man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Poop Man, I've never ever beat the Ender Dragon before. Can you help me beat the Ender Dragon? What? Oh, Poop Man! No!
Are we being serious right now? The Poop Man built the bridge for the speedrunner to get to the island, but it's not gonna help them defeat the Ender Dragon. Well, at least the speedrunner is gonna beat the Ender Dragon without cheating, right? But I'll just let you watch this next part for yourself.
Guess I'm gonna have to do it myself. Get over here, Ender Dragon! Get down here, Ender Dragon! Oh my god! Huh, I dodged it. He's not perching. Oh god, this Ender Dragon is taking way too long to perch. What a stupid little Ender Dragon. Finally, the Ender Dragon's perching! Get over here, stupid Ender Dragon! Oh, ow, ow! No! Hiya! Oh my god, I almost died, but I clutched up with my Ender Pearl. Oh, ow! Enderman, stop it, Enderman! I have to kill the Ender Dragon! Please, stop it! Let me kill the Ender Dragon! The stupid Enderman! That's it, I quit.
The speedrunner waited 2 whole minutes for the Ender Dragon to perch, and once it did, they just died to an Enderman. And from that point on, they just completely give up on the speedrun, which is extremely embarrassing. This speedrunner starts by loading into the world, where immediately we can see a pyramid and also a village, which is a very good spawn for speedrunning. The speedrunner immediately heads over towards the pyramid and begins breaking their way in. And once they land down below, we immediately see something that is fake. And in case you didn't catch it, then here, I'll show you. If we look down at their hearts, we can see that they are full HP. But if we rewind 5 seconds ago, we can see that they jumped down into the pyramid and took no fall damage, which, if you ask me, is incredibly suspicious, because any normal speedrunner would have taken fall damage here. Well, the speedrunner begins looting the pyramid, and inside of each chest, they find some pretty normal loot, like sand, rotten flesh, and even diamonds. But wait just a second. If we look at the loot from every single chest, and we examine it very closely, we can see that inside of every single chest, there were diamonds. But not only that, the diamonds were placed directly in the middle of each chest, which is technically possible, it is just very weird. But the speedrunner did gain the advancement diamonds inside chat, which means that there is actually a good chance that this could be real. So the speedrunner builds their way back up, exits the pyramid, and begins making their way to the village that we saw at the start of the speedrun. But hold on just a second. If we take a closer look at the speedrunner's inventory, we can see a diamond pickaxe. But where did they get this? Because they were just inside the pyramid and they had no diamond pickaxe. Well, if we rewind the video and then play it again from right here, we can see as they exited the pyramid, they picked up a diamond pickaxe. So the speedrunner probably dropped a diamond pickaxe before the speedrun began and hoped that we wouldn't notice. Well, the speedrunner finally arrives at the desert village, but hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, in case you didn't, if we rewind the footage and then pause it right here, we can see what appears to be a blue axolotl. But how is this possible? Because blue axolotls can only spawn inside of jungles, not inside of a desert village. And this blue axolotl isn't even the fakest part about this speedrun, because what the speedrunner does at the end is absolutely insane. Well, the speedrunner completely ignores the blue axolotl and begins exploring more of the village. But hold on just a second. This house right here is called an armor, and this is what the inside of this house typically looks like. But whenever the speedrunner enters this house, we can see that there is a chest that never spawns here, which means that there is a good chance that whatever is inside this chest is completely fake. Well, the speedrunner walks up to the chest and finds tons of iron loot, which we all know is just not legit. Well, the speedrunner takes all of the iron loot and even puts on some iron armor. They then begin exploring more of the village and even mine some hay bales for food and some beds to blow up the Ender Dragon dragon later, which is actually a pro speedrunner strategy. But wait just a second. You see, I currently have 6 subscribers, and it's always been my goal to one day reach 7 subscribers. So if you could help me out, that would genuinely mean the world to me. They then find a crafting table where they then craft themselves some bread, 2 iron ingots, iron pants, and an iron helmet. Well, now that the speedrunner has some pretty good loot, they begin by exploring more of the village. But wait just a second. Did you see that? Well, if I rewind the footage and pause it right here, we can see what appears to be a command block with a pressure plate on top of it. And if you know anything about Minecraft, you know that command blocks are physically impossible to get inside of survival Minecraft, which means that it is very likely that the speedrunner placed this command block down inside of creative. Well, the speedrunner looks around to make sure no one's looking, where they suddenly step on the pressure plate, and wait, what the heck? Are they entering the nether? Oh, well, I guess they're in the nether now. And not only that, they also spawned inside of the fortress. And once again, we can see that they gain the advancements inside chat, which means that this is their first time in the nether and their first time entering a fortress, which means that this could actually be real. Well, the speedrunner begins exploring the fortress, where they suddenly walk up to a wither skeleton, but for some reason, it's not attacking him, which, if I'm being completely honest, I have no idea how this is even possible. Well, the speedrunner decides to randomly mine into a wall where they find a golden block. But the thing is, golden blocks cannot spawn inside of fortresses, as they can only spawn inside of bastions. And this isn't the only time they do this, because once again, they mine into the wall and find another golden block. And they even do this 2 more times. Well, now that they have 4 golden blocks, they turn them into golden ingots. They then begin digging out a hole, likely to begin trading with piglins. They then place down a crafting table and make themselves golden boots. Now that they have golden boots, they explore more of the fortress and eventually find a piglin. They try pushing the piglin over towards their hole, but it just walks away. So the speedrunner then picks up the piglin. Wait, what? I had no idea that picking up a piglin was even possible. So this caught me completely off guard. And I'm not even gonna lie, if you think that picking up a piglin was insane, then you're gonna be even more surprised for what the speedrunner does at the end. Because trust me, it is absolutely insane. Well, the speedrunner places the piglin inside of their hole, and then they go around the fortress some more, finding 2 more piglins and placing each of them inside of the hole as well. They spend some time trading with the piglins, but eventually they only get 4 ender pearls, which is not enough to enter the end. Well, now that the speedrunner is out of gold, they explore more of the fortress. But hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, if we zoom into their hotbar, we can see that they have 16 ender pearls. But whenever they were trading with the piglins, they only had 4. So where did they magically get 12 ender pearls? Well, if we rewind the footage and play it again from right here, we can see a sudden cut where the speedrunner magically gained 12 ender pearls. So I believe that the speedrunner went inside of creative mode and gave themselves ender pearls, but just cut it out of the speedrun, which is against the rules of speedrunning. Well, now that the speedrunner has all of the ender pearls they need, they begin looking for blazes. They begin killing a bunch of random blazes, but sadly, they only have 1 blaze rod. But then, out of nowhere, the speedrunner randomly looks at the floor, and now they have 20 blaze rods. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is just embarrassing at this point. Just like what they did with the ender pearls, they just gave themselves more blaze rods, which once again is against the rules of speedrunning. Well, now that the speedrunner technically has everything they need to enter the end, they begin making their way back towards the nether portal. Now, once they're in the overworld, they turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and make themselves 12 eyes of ender. They then throw their eye of ender and they begin heading in that direction. But hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and pause it right here, we can see a bunch of random stone brick, which is the same exact material that is used for the stronghold. Well, the speedrunner drops down into the hole, and what the heck is that? It's just a floating end portal? I am so confused. Well, I guess the speedrunner enters the end, and once they're in the end, they look around for a little bit, and I'm not gonna lie, everything looks pretty normal. The ender dragon has full health, and they don't even gain any random new items. But they do sit here for a few seconds when out of nowhere they begin flying? Are we serious right now? So the speedrunner flies over to the main island, and now that the speedrunner apparently had fly hacks this entire time, it should be very easy for them to kill the ender dragon. Well, the speedrunner places down some blocks at the portal, but the ender dragon is taking a while to perch. So the speedrunner gets impatient and just starts flying over to the ender dragon, hitting it over and over again until eventually the ender dragon perches, and the speedrunner flies around hitting the ender dragon when suddenly the speedrunner just dies. Even with hacks, the speedrunner still could could not kill the Ender Dragon. That speedrun was so embarrassing. The speedrunner starts by creating their world, and everything seems pretty normal. But once they load in, we can see that they're looking slightly down at the ground. And whenever you start a new world, you're always looking perfectly straight, which means that there's actually a good chance that the speedrun could be fake. Now, in this first 5 seconds, I want you to watch the speedrunner very closely, because something seems off.
Oh my god, I love speedrunning. It's like my favorite thing to do. It's like, oh, I love speedrunning.
Did you see it? Well, as the speedrunner went inside of third person, we can see what appears to be a lucky block directly behind them, which is extremely weird because lucky blocks are not inside of normal Minecraft, as they can only be obtained with mods, which makes this part of the speedrun very suspicious. Well, the speedrunner makes their way deeper into the village where they find a chest that has leather boots. Listen to what they say.
Oh, boots? Are we serious? And toilet paper? Oh my goodness, I hate toilet paper. Ew, I'm gonna throw toilet paper. No more toilet paper, I hate toilet paper.
The speedrunner now has leather boots, and it may not seem like it right now, but these leather boots are gonna play a very important part later in the speedrun. Well, the speedrunner begins mining a tree where they gather 4 logs and make themselves a crafting table and craft a wooden pickaxe and a wooden axe. The speedrunner then begins looking for the iron golem, but just watch what happens next.
Alright, Iron Golem, I'm gonna kill you. Thank you for not attacking me, Iron Golem. That's like super nice of you.
Yeah, the speedrunner killed the iron golem, but for some reason it didn't attack them, which is very confusing because iron golems always attack someone who hits them. So the fact that this iron golem for some reason didn't attack is very suspicious. Well, now that the speedrunner has 3 iron ingots, they suddenly remember that they have to do a victory dance. Yeah, just watch this for yourself.
Oh wait, I almost forgot to do my victory dance for killing the Iron Golem. Are you ready, guys? Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! We killed the Iron Golem! We killed the Iron Golem! Yahoo! Yahoo! Yahoo!
I've never seen a speedrunner stop their speedrun to do a victory dance. And not only that, dancing is not even possible inside of Minecraft unless you have mods. So this likely means that the speedrunner is cheating. Well, the speedrunner explores more of the village where they suddenly find a lava pool. But once again, we can see something that is fake about the speedrun. And I'm just gonna let you watch this for yourself.
Oh my god, a lava pool! Yes! We needed that lava pool for like the longest times ever. Because I love lava pools, I can't even lie.
Did you see that? Well, the speedrunner suddenly gained the advancement Stone Age inside chat, but they weren't mining any stone. So how is this possible? Well, if we rewind the footage and then play it again from right here, we can see the speedrunner suddenly gain a bunch of cobblestone inside of their inventory. But if we look down at the ground, there was no stone on the floor. So how did they do this? Well, if I'm being completely honest, I have no idea. So if you know how they did this, then please let me know. Well, the speedrunner arrives at the lava pool, but wait just a second. This is what a normal lava pool looks like. And as we can see, there is usually stone around it. But if we look at the speedrunner's lava pool, there is no stone to be seen, which means that the speedrunner likely dug out a hole in the ground and just filled it up with lava, which would be against the rules of speedrunning. Well, the speedrunner places down their crafting table and makes an iron bucket. They fill the bucket up with water, and they then begin constructing the nether portal. And I'm not gonna lie, the speedrunner actually knows what they're doing, because they construct the nether portal completely normally. But what's not normal is what they do next.
Alright, so basically that's how you build the nether portal. It's pretty easy, I can't even lie. Right, now that we finished the nether portal, we can just light it, just like that. There we go.
Hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, the speedrunner opened up their inventory where they suddenly had a flint and steel. But if we rewind the footage 20 seconds ago, we can see that they had no flint and steel. So the fact that they now have a flint and steel is completely fake. Well, once the speedrunner loads into the nether, they use what they call a new speedrunner strategy. And this new speedrunner strategy is something I've never seen before. Well, just watch it for yourself.
Now I just have to try to find find where a Northern Fortress would be. There is like a new speedrunner technique. If you go like this, and then you like smack the top, you can try to calculate where it's gonna be, and there should be one, oh, right over there. Oh my god, straight ahead.
Okay, there's no way that building this weird structure leads them directly to another fortress. This is just impossible. And if you think this new speedrunner strategy is insane, then you should see what the speedrunner does at the end, because it is absolutely insane.
So according to my calculations, it should be somewhere up here. Let me turn my render distance up. Oh, there it is, right there. Yeah, right there. Oh my god, I can't believe I figured it out.
Well, the only way to get to the nether fortress is by bridging, so that's exactly what the speedrunner does. But they end up doing something that makes this speedrun completely fake. Well, just watch it for yourself.
So now I'm gonna have to build over there, I guess. I'm not really good at the bridging stuff. Oh no, oh no, oh no! Oh my god! I'm burning!
But hold on just a second. You see, I currently have 0 subscribers, and it's always been my dream to one day reach 1 subscriber. So if you could be my first subscriber, that would genuinely mean the world to me. The speedrunner fell into the lava and somehow has not lost a single heart. But how did they do this? Well, if we rewind the footage all the way back to whenever they were in the overworld and pause it here, we can see that the speedrunner had resistance, which makes the speedrunner completely invincible, which is obviously cheating. And not only that, if we zoom in right here, we can see that the speedrunner's leather boots are now enchanted, which somehow places obsidian everywhere they walk above the lava, which is something I've never seen before. Well, the speedrunner walks all the way over towards the nether fortress and begins building up. But wait just a second, did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and then play it again from right here, we can see that as the speedrunner was building up, they ran out of blocks, but then suddenly gained another stack, which means that the speedrunner likely went inside of creative, but just cut it out of the speedrun. Well, now that the speedrunner has finally arrived at the top, they do something absolutely hilarious. Well, just watch it for yourself.
We made it! Yay! Yay! Know what that calls for? Another emote! Oh yeah! We made it! To the fortress! Yeah, we made it! Yeah, to the fortress! To the fortress! To the fortress! Yahoo!
Okay, this speedrunner is absolutely insane. Well, now that they're at the nether fortress, they begin exploring where they suddenly find this golden netherrack block. And then they find another and another, which leads them directly to a blaze spawn, which makes me believe that the speedrunner placed these here inside the fortress before they began the speedrun, so that way they wouldn't get lost. Well, now that they're at the blaze spawner, I want you to just watch what they do next.
Oh my god, there's the blazy thing! Alright, can you please spawn blazes? That way I can kill them, please. Oh, thank you! Die, blaze, die! Oh my god, that was a hard fight, but I managed to kill the blaze. Oh my god, blazes! Die, blazes, die! Oh my goodness, these blazes are so hard to fight!
Just like the iron golem that didn't attack them earlier in the speedrun, the blazes are also not attacking them. But the only time that mobs don't attack you is whenever you're in peaceful mode. But the speedrunner is losing a bar of hunger, so they're clearly not in peaceful. So my only assumption is that the speedrunner is probably using a mod that makes it so that way mobs don't attack them inside of their speedrun, which once again would be against the rules of speedrunning. The speedrunner eventually grabs 5 blaze rods, and once they start killing the 6th one, we can see that they suddenly picked up a stack of ender pearls. Okay, this speedrunner isn't even trying to hide the fact that they're cheating anymore, because this is so obvious. Well, they eventually grab 6 blaze rods, and that's when they decide to turn their blaze rods into blaze powder to make themselves 12 eyes of ender. Hold on just a second. Do you see that? Well, right here, we can see what appears to be a nether portal. How does the speedrunner have a nether portal inside of their inventory? I think I must have missed an update. Well, now that the speedrunner has a nether portal inside of their inventory, they place it down and head back into the overworld. But just watch what happens next.
Oh my god, I'm in the stronghold! I'm in the stronghold! My nether portal led me here! Oh, I guess my nether portal glitched or something. I don't know where it went.
The speedrunner is now somehow inside of the stronghold, but there is no nether portal to be seen, which makes me believe that the speedrunner went inside their nether portal and flew all the way over to the stronghold, but just cut it out, which is very suspicious. Well, the speedrunner places in all of their eyes of Ender, and once they're in the end, they build up and head towards the middle of the island. They then look into the eyes of an Enderman, which for some reason the Enderman just doesn't care, and then they wait for the Ender Dragon to perch, when suddenly out of nowhere the speedrun cuts and the Ender Dragon is nowhere to be seen. And listen to their reaction.
What the heck? Well, see you later, alligator.
Well, I guess the speedrunner beat the speedrun with a time of 13 minutes and 54 seconds. Yeah, so even cheating, the speedrunner still could not beat the world record for the fastest speedrun. That was genuinely embarrassing. This speedrunner starts by loading into the world, where immediately we can see a desert temple that's inside of a village, which has gotta be one of the luckiest spawns I've ever seen for speedrunning. Well, the speedrunner immediately heads towards the desert temple and begins breaking their way down. Once they land inside, they begin looting all 4 chests, where they surprisingly find some pretty normal loot, like a golden apple, rotten flesh, and even bones. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Well, they finish looting all of the chests, but wait just a second. Did you see that? Well, out of nowhere, the advancement appeared inside chat called diamonds. And inside of the speedrunner's inventory, we can see 10 diamonds. And if we rewind the footage and then play it again, we can see that this literally came out of nowhere. So how is this possible? Well, the speedrunner looks straight up where we can suddenly see a chicken, but then the chicken just walks away. So did the chicken drop the diamonds? But how could a chicken drop diamonds? Well, if I'm being completely honest, I am so confused. Well, the speedrunner begins building their way back up when they exit the desert temple and begin exploring more of the village. They then begin destroying some hay bales for some bread for food later in the speedrun. But hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and then play it again from right here, we can see a villager walk by and drop a netherite sword. But last time I checked, villagers cannot drop random items. But maybe I just missed an update. Well, the speedrunner picks up the netherite sword, and we can even see that it lost some durability, which is an even clearer sign that this is actually fake. Well, the speedrunner explores more of the village, where they eventually find a crafting table. So they craft themselves some bread, a diamond pickaxe, and even diamond pants, which is very good loot to have at the start of a speedrun. Well, now that the speedrunner has some pretty good loot, they decide to head back towards the pyramid that they saw at the start of the speedrun. But this time, there's a nether portal. But if we look back at the footage from before, we can see that there was actually no nether portal, which means someone had to have placed this here. And I have a strange feeling that it could have been the chicken and the villager that we saw earlier in the speedrun. And I'm not gonna lie, if you think a random nether portal appearing out of nowhere is insane, then you're gonna be even more surprised for what happens at the end, because it is absolutely insane. Well, the speedrunner then decides to head inside the nether portal, and once they're in the nether, they look around for a little bit, and everything seems pretty normal. But hold on just a second. You see, these videos take a long time to make, so if you could simply subscribe, that would genuinely mean the world to me. Okay, now back to the speedrun. So they begin exploring a little bit until they find this piglin here. So the speedrunner drops 3 gold to trade with the piglin. But hold on, did you see that? Well, if we rewind the footage and pause it right here, we can see all of the chat messages. And one of them says that a player joined the game. But this is very weird, because whenever you do a speedrun, you have to make sure that you are in a single player world. And this message here clearly shows that they are in the world with another player, which is actually against the rules of speedrunning. Well, once the piglin picks up the 3 gold, the piglin turns around and starts dropping tons of ender pearls. What the heck? Okay, I think I must have missed an update, because last time I checked, piglins don't just drop ender pearls like this, which makes me believe that this is the same person that we saw being a villager earlier in the speedrun. Well, now that the speedrunner has a bunch of ender pearls, they begin heading back towards their portal. And once they're in the overworld, they begin heading back inside the village. But wait just a second. Did you see that? Well, Well, if we look at the top left corner, we can see that the timer says 12 minutes and 36 seconds. But if we rewind the footage, we can see that the timer just said 3 minutes and 45 seconds, which means the speedrunner is either a time traveler or they're cheating. Well, once the speedrunner is back inside of the village, wait, what the heck? Do you see that? Well, if we zoom in right here, we can see what appears to be a chicken on top of an end portal. And not only that, the chicken hides behind the tree, likely indicating that this could actually be a real person and not an actual chicken. Well, the speedrunner makes her way over towards the end portal, where we can see that all of the eyes of Ender have already been placed in except for one. And of course, there's an eye of Ender right on top of it. So the speedrunner picks up the eye of Ender and places it in. And now that they're in the end, they take their ender pearl and throw it to the main island. And once it lands, we can see something that is fake. Because if you look at the top of the screen, we can see that there is no health bar for the ender dragon. But if we continue the speed run, we can see that there actually still is an ender dragon. I have a strange feeling that this is not the real ender dragon, because earlier in the speed run, we saw a fake piglin, a fake villager, and even a fake chicken. So something tells me that this ender dragon is also fake. Well, as they continue the speed run, they literally just walk around and do absolutely nothing as the ender dragon continues flying in circles. But that's when, out of nowhere, the ender dragon just blows up. And we can even see a death message inside chat, which means that this ender dragon was actually the speedrunner's friend the entire time. Well, now that the ender dragon is dead, the speedrunner jumps into the portal and finishes the speed run with a time of 14 minutes and 35 seconds. The speedrunner starts by loading into the world, where immediately we see a village on the left side of their screen, which, if you ask me, is a very good start for a speedrun. Well, the speedrunner immediately heads inside of the village and enters a house where they find a chest that has some pretty normal loot, like bread, apples, and some seeds. Nothing that is too suspicious yet. Well, the speedrunner takes the apples and the bread, but hold on just a second. Do you see that? Well, if we look inside their inventory, we can see that they have an iron pickaxe, but the chest did not have an iron pickaxe inside of it, and whenever they started the speedrun, they had no items. So where the heck did they get this iron pickaxe from? Well, if we rewind the footage and then play it again from right here, we can see that as they walked inside the house, they picked up an iron pickaxe, which means that before they began the speedrun, they likely took an iron pickaxe and threw it in the corner of the house and hoped that we wouldn't notice. And if I'm being completely honest, they almost got away with it. But once the speedrunner finishes looting the chest, they exit the house and begin mining some wood. They then find an iron golem, which they of course smack it and then build straight up. But the iron golem somehow does parkour to hit the speedrunner down. Okay, since when could iron golems do parkour? There must have been a new update. Well, now that the speedrunner is a little low, they build right back up and kill the iron golem, which drops them 3 iron ingots. The speedrunner then explores more of the village, where they suddenly find another iron golem. But hold on just a second. Villages can only spawn 1 iron golem, so the fact that there is another iron golem here is actually very confusing. Well, the speedrunner kills this iron golem, and they now have 6 iron ingots. But guess what? The speedrunner finds another iron golem. Okay, something tells me that the speedrunner went inside of creative mode and placed a bunch of iron golems inside of this village, because I have never seen more than 1 iron golem in a village in my entire life. Well, the speedrunner kills this iron golem as well, and now that they have 9 iron ingots, they explore the village some more to try and find a crafting table. But hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, if I rewind the footage and then pause it right here, we can see what appears to be an armadillo. But what is an armadillo doing inside of a random village? Because this mob can only spawn inside of the swamp biome, so one being right here is physically impossible. Well, the speedrunner completely ignores the armadillo and enters a house where they find a chest that has some normal loot and also a crafting table. The speedrunner then crafts himself an iron sword and also an iron helmet. They then break the crafting table, and then for some odd reason, the speedrunner leaves the village and starts heading in a completely random direction. But hold on just a second. You see, I only have 11 subscribers, and it's always been my goal to one day reach 12 subscribers. So if you could subscribe, that that would genuinely mean so much to me. Well, as they're wandering in a random direction, they of course find a ruined portal. And as they get closer, we can see that the ruined portal is already fully constructed, which is physically impossible. And this already finished ruined portal isn't even the fakest part about this speedrun, because what the speedrunner does at the end is absolutely insane. Well, the speedrunner loots the ruined portal chest, where they find some normal loot, like a fire charge, a golden shovel, and some golden pants. All loot that is actually normal. They take everything out of the chest and light the nether portal with their fire charge. They then break the golden block and head into the portal. And once they're in the nether, they open up their coordinates and begin looking around, which is actually a pro speedrunner strategy to try and find entities inside of the nether. But something tells me that the speedrunner has no idea what they're actually doing, because they begin heading in a completely random direction. But hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, the speedrunner has been heading in a random direction, right? Well, actually no, because we can see what appears to be a glowstone path that they seem to be following. And they continue following this glowstone path, which leads them directly to the nether fortress. Okay, this has got to be the fakest speedrun I think I've ever seen. Well, now that the speedrunner has finally found the nether fortress. Wait, what the heck? Did you see that? 1 second ago, the nether fortress was completely empty. But if I play the footage from here very slowly, we can see that there was a sudden cut where a bunch of blazes randomly spawned. But cutting a part out of your speedrun is actually against the rules of speedrunning, which means that this speedrun is completely fake. Well, the speedrunner heads into the fortress and begins killing the blazes. But for some reason, the blazes aren't moving. And if I'm being completely honest, I have no idea how they're doing this. So if you know how they did this, then please let me know, because I am so confused. Well, the speedrunner goes around the entire fortress, killing a bunch of blazes. And other than the blazes not moving, nothing looks too suspicious. But hold on just a second. Did you see that? Well, in case you didn't, then here, I'll show you. If we rewind the footage and then pause it right here, we can see what appears to be a repeating command block directly below their feet. And the only way that you can get a command block is if you were inside of creative. But why would the speedrunner need a command block for a speedrun? Well, the speedrunner kills 2 more blazes where they open up their inventory and we can see that they have 2 stacks of ender pearls. But if we look at any point during the speedrun, we can see that the speedrunner never picked up any ender pearls, which means that this command block likely gave the speedrunner the ender pearls, which once again is against the rules of speedrunning. Well, now that the speedrunner has 6 blaze rods and 2 stacks of ender pearls, they make themselves 12 eyes of ender. They then begin making their way all the way back towards their portal. And once they're in the overworld, they throw their eye of ender and then begin heading in that direction. Wait, what the heck? Are we serious right now? The speedrunner went from running in a plains biome to magically being inside of the stronghold. But how is this possible? Well, if you ask me, I think that the speedrunner had someone teleport them inside of the stronghold, which once again is against the rules of speedrun. Well, now that the speedrunner is inside of the stronghold, they begin placing in all of their eyes of ender. But if I pause it right here, there's actually something about this frame here that is completely fake. Because if we look right here, we can see what appears to be a player just standing there, which is very weird. And once they're in the end, we can immediately see something that is fake. That obviously being this invisible staircase ladder. Well, the speedrunner climbs the ladder, and once they're on the main island, they place down their bed and wait for the ender dragon to purge. And once it does, the speedrunner clicks on their bed and blows themselves up. Okay, that speedrun was genuinely just embarrassing. If you liked that video, then I would highly recommend also watching this video, because it's pretty darn cool.